Hello, hello. Salutations, everybody. Salutations. Hello. I hope everybody is doing well. So sorry about the delayed announcement about this. Some technical difficulties, as per usual. But lovely to see you. I'm not sure if we're going to get a lot of people here, as considering that it's quite quite late. It's already nearly 1 a.m. here, but alas. Thank you so much, Rini. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Yes. Yes, it was a birthday. But yes, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. I've sent FD the link, so I'm hoping that all is well on his end. Thank you so much, Daka Z, for... I'm not entirely sure. I can't really see what you've sent, but I think it's emoticons. But thank you very much. Yes, yes. Hello, Joshua Craig. Lovely to see you, as always. Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you. Yes, yes, it's... Yes, as I said, it's been a birthday, but alas. Yes, and it is lovely to see you as always. Yes, it is finally happening. It is finally happening. We'll see how it goes. I think I'd just like to clarify some things, and I think everything is just a lot better when you talk to people directly. Just, you know, sort of a typical thing that's always helped just in anything. So yes, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Very much appreciated. I don't actually celebrate my birthday, but yes, yes, I I decided to just... I just went clothes shopping, and yes, I was just clothes shopping by myself, got some smoothies, went to the gym, you know, listened to lots of Lana Del Rey, but you know, I can't complain actually. So yes, yes, it was a day, but yeah. Hello, Manny, lovely to see you. Hello, Mohammed, Cheza. Excuse my thick thighs. Oh, hello, excuse my thick thighs. I know you. I referenced you in my video. That was I know you. I do know you. So it's great to talk with you and meet you. But anyway, let's get into it, because we have... Well, at least on my end, I think I assume that we have a lot to talk about. So yes, this should be interesting. So I hope you enjoy. I do apologize if I don't look at the chat. As you know, I'm not a multitasker at all. So do forgive me in advance. But if you do want my attention, actually, I might just attend to you after we've finished here. So yes, apologies in advance. But yes, let's get to it. So I will assign FD a role, and yes, let us go.
Boys, close that door!
Hello. Oh. Oh yes, and just in advance, please chat. Be respectful. Don't be rude. Don't be crass. Don't be... Yeah, just treat people the way you want to be treated in your everyday life. If you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, don't say it at all. So yeah, and I do have my moderators, so go for it. Anyway, hello.
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 Are we already on?
Hello.
Already in?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, you are.
Me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, we have a little lag, I think.
Yes, I
I can
can hear
hear
you.
you.
Oh
Can you
yes,
hear
yes.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, yes. Perfect. Yes. How are you?
I am okay, a little tired. I assume you're more tired because it's much later there.
Oh, it's fine. I had a nap.
But doing good
It's all
otherwise.
good. I'm fresh and ready to go. So yes, uh, I mean, I don't think. I mean, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to. I don't think you need to. I think you are a legend in your own right on the internet and at least in the sphere of things. So
Ooh,
yes,
that
if you'd
is
like to,
never a
take it away.
settling thing to hear. I'm F.D Signifier. For those of you who may not know who I am, I wouldn't call myself a legend yet. I appreciate the honorifics. Um, I'm sure many of you. I've had so much engagement from people that wanted to see this happen. So I'm pretty confident, considering the interactions we had. I guess that's about a month ago. That everybody knows who I am. So
Yes,
we don't
yes.
have to waste a lot of time.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, I'm sure you have lots of questions for me.
Just fair warning. Real quick,
Yes.
just fair warning. I have two little ones that may run down at any point in time. And I think my wife just walked in and she knows we're doing this, but I just want to make sure if ever like I seem like I'm disengaged or I cut my screen because if ever that just know it's not running off the stream. It's just to
No,
kind
no
of
worries at
maintain
all. No worries at all.
home decorum.
Just let me sort of be a part of your melting pot of things. If you need to leave for anything, feel free. No hard feelings. Yeah, completely understand. Definitely. But anyway, I'm sure you have a lot of questions for me. I definitely have questions about things. I'm perfectly happy for you to start with the question, unless you want me to.
I don't want to start with a question. I think I first want to start with an apology. It's something I did at the end of the critique video, but I don't think I know that not everybody caught it because that's just the nature of how we watch content. Most people watch content for the thing they're looking for most, and thus get out of it what they are looking for. But I was well aware during and in the aftermath, like genuinely considered. I think I'm just going to vault this the video. That it's just not fun to be the subject of discourse, even if that discourse is important, which I think the discourse was in the video that we did. Even if there were important things that needed to be hashed out from that, or may have been learned, or even if there was conflict that came from it. I said it in the video. It's never fun to like scroll through your feed and see your face, but not your videos. If that makes sense, it's something
Yes.
that's happened a lot to me. And I said in the thing that this was not kind. This is not nice. We're going to try to be nice, but this is not going to be nice. But we're going to try to be kind. But there's no way to not recognize that there's a harm done when content is made about an individual that is not theirs, and they're not there to represent themselves. And when that becomes discourse, you then lose yourself in the entirety of the process. And so I know that wasn't a fun thing to experience, although I also know that that's just kind of a part of our job. But being in front of you, I want to make sure that I was clear about that. That while I do think our video was important, and I don't think I don't take back. I wouldn't take back much of what came out of the video. I haven't watched it in a while, so surely some things in my perspective may have changed. But the end result, regardless of if we had the most righteous, breakdown of the ideas, and if we were right on every stage, we had all the logic and data. That doesn't matter in the face of a person was pilloried via a YouTube video, and that's just never fun. And so, being that I want to offer that, respect and apology to you. That I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry that we did that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, well, I think just in relation to that, I think I'd like to just ask, why didn't you talk to me about it? Why didn't you talk to me beforehand? Because you reached out to me a year ago to talk to you, and then I didn't hear from you at all. And then the next time I heard from you, you made a video with your peers about something, and it was also quite unique in that you haven't before uploaded a whole stream that you've done on your Patreon onto your B-side channel. Why this video? Why was this the moment? Why didn't you talk to me? Because I was very confused by that. I was very confused by I think the sort of indirectness of this entire situation. The idea that you don't want to platform me on your channel, that you don't. I'm getting the feeling, even from our email interactions, that you don't want to talk to me, that this is more of an inconvenience or just something that has to be done because of sort of the consequence of you making that reaction video, than you actually wanting to talk to me as you would to Bellamy or Professor Flowers or Kadisha or whomever. So I just, just wondering about that.
So there's various, I feel like that was multiple questions in a way, because there's various explanations as to why we haven't talked. So the first one is about the video in particular. That was just a spur of the moment type of thing. We watched several people I'm in community that watched the video, and we tried to be very clear about this in the video, but it's kind of impossible. But our discussion wasn't meant to be explicitly about kidology, but about this specific perspective that I think all of us are thinking more about. It's something that I definitely wanted to make more of a focus for my own, maybe not content, but energy and like my, my participation online in 2023. I said, you know what, I'm going to get around more and get out of explicitly just making my own content, but think about how I can, provide perspectives that I think are missing from the discourse in a way that I am maybe uniquely equipped to do as as the especially now that T1J has exited the political sphere, as the only brother still, doing leftist content on YouTube at my level. And so as we discussed it, we realized that we wanted to share this with more people because there were so many things that were in your video that merited discussion and unpacking, and would be useful to the community as a whole. So that's why you didn't get an email or any type of alert to have a discussion, because what I don't like doing, and I haven't done much. I did a couple this year, and I was like, yeah, I don't like this. Is jumping on with people and like having this debate style content, because there's discourse, there's a discussion that we can have privately where we can meet out our ideas, have no fear of consequences of how our ideas might be misinterpreted by a large crowd or clipped out of context or used to validate a perspective that we don't want to be attached to. All these different things that happen when you make content, something that I've been trying to bring out more in a lot of my other discussions. And then there's two individuals having a conversation about their ideas, and in a private setting where it's not content, it can't be affected by those, commodified capitalistic forces. So I was never against having a conversation with you about your video, but I knew like when the video was over that the idea of having a conversation with you was going to probably end up being like this, because it's only fair. And thus, here I am. Now, in terms of like talking to all these other people, versus you, those are people I'm in community with. Those are people I talk to regularly. Those are people who there is enough meeting of the minds, enough connectivity in our political ideologies that it is a different type of conversation around conflict and disagreement. And I would have those conversations in private, via screen if necessary, or through text chat. Because once it hits this screen, once this camera is on me, it becomes entertainment, regardless of what we think we're doing or saying, or how we feel about what we're saying, or the perspective that people might have on us, or the perspective we have of ourselves. It is entertainment. It is. I don't know if you. I think you. I saw your tweet. I thought it was pretty cool. You watched the video. I talked about the culture industry, and that's what this is. And so, for me personally, I'm kind of at a point where I have the privilege of picking and choosing when I want to interact with this format, with this framework. And so with you, being a person I'm not in community with, it was just kind of like that's just a reality of the situation. One thing I got from watching, because I watched chunks of both of your responses, is that there's maybe a sense of I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there is a sense of maybe hurt in that there was maybe a possibility for us to be in community together, and then that didn't happen. And I don't want to. I always want to be clear that that's mostly because I am really only interested in being, especially when it comes to YouTube and content, in being in community with other leftists, Black and otherwise. And that was not a personal thing. It was just a consideration in terms of what I think is best for my presence online. And not wanting to compromise, your stance position. If I recall, you talked about when Foreign reached out to you. I think you misrepresented how that conversation went. And we can. I won't put Foreign on the spot to clear it up. But my understanding is, he asked you about your where you are politically, and you didn't respond to him, is what he told us.
He
because
didn't ask me where I was politically. He did. I mean, I'm happy
Okay.
to
What
show you
was
the
his
emails,
last
but
message?
yeah.
So how did that situation happen from your perspective? Because I've only heard from Foreign.
Yes, well, in the email, Foreign just reached out to me. He'd signed up to my Patreon and just reached out to me and said, look, we have this community on Discord of creators. Would you like to join? I said yes. I joined, and then when it comes to the terms and all the rules on Discord, I'm not sure how it exactly works. It was stated that this is, a leftist space, that this is for left opinions. So it wasn't something that I knew prior to being invited into the Discord group. So yes, that's what I was getting at. That sort of not having that information prior to, yeah.
I think he assumed that you were more left leaning, which is what I assumed initially. And so I can't speak to how the interaction, what the disconnect is between Foreign's perspective and your perspective. But I just want to be clear that it wasn't it's not personal, and that's kind of the thing that came through. I think with the video in the aftermath, that and a lot of I think misconceptions about the so-called left is that we don't own the left, right? We only own the space we've created, and collectively, a lot of people within the left are saying, within this community, these are our standards. What I'm saying? These are our expectations for how you interact, or how we require what we desire to make sure people feel safe within our community. People feel like they belong in the community, and we have trans people in our community. We have, hardcore leftists across the spectrum in our community. And so it would have been unfair to you, let alone, an issue in the space, which is not perfect, by the way. It has conflict, is the irony, has lots of conflict, to have said, all right, we're going to bring in a person who's apolitical, you know what I'm saying, into sharing the space. So yes, I just want to be clear about that, because that was something I felt, I won't say bad about, but like I don't want it to feel like there was a malicious or a ill will towards it. It was just like, well, we are doing this and you are doing that. And while I remain subscribed to your channel and watch your content, like, it's different.
Yes, yes. I mean, I don't think you were malicious, but I do find it quite contradictory, because I think that when it comes to at least what I see of your content, and I see your content just on your sphere of things, it is about really trying to connect with people, surely, in order for people to realize this sort of vision that you have of not just the internet, but the world at large. And I mean, if you're not willing to engage with the very normal perspective or the apolitical perspective, or with other people who are like me, willing to speak with you and engage with you, then I don't really see you getting any further along than it merely being what I see it as being, as just essentially a clique, which was one of my critiques of the left, that it is very cliquey. And I feel that your description now of your sort of collective of creators, you're in a space, you have the same ideas, it isn't perfect, but it wouldn't be fair to have me involved in it, sort of immediately projecting me as the other, especially when none of you have actually ever spoken to me and never actually asked me about my views, and just sort of have these assumptions about my views. Even this assumption, I mean, at the beginning of your video, you assumed that I was British just because of how I speak. I mean, it's just these things which I think this whole situation just would not have happened if we just talked.
So, I mean, there's again, like, varying things to engage with there. Mm-hmm. This is a clique. We are in the clique. I think we admitted that as much, like, while watching your video. We organize explicitly for specific reasons. And those reasons also require, what's the word? Quality control over the space. You know what I'm saying? We've put people out because of that. People that I am still connected with and in friends with, but it was like, okay, for this space, you no longer really work. And people have left because they said, hey, for this space, I no longer work. And that's unfortunate. But, like and that's what that one misconception that I think I pulled from your video was just like the idea that I am the left, that my creator crew friends are the left. We are, entertainers first. You know what I'm saying? Our entertainment is built around education and political ideology and about spreading ideas. But we don't, like, if you wanted to come to the, rally, you want to come to, Cop City, Atlanta and protest, I wouldn't disinvite you from that, because that's praxis. That's action. But, I wouldn't invite a lot of those people, to my personal space. In terms of, like, my platform in particular, one of my primary goals for my platform was for it to be a safe space for marginalized, targeted, oppressed people. And to just be, to offer you a hypothetical, so if there was one, the irony of one of the moments, there was a moment in the first response, because I have been actually trying to, I was in your chat, I don't know if you noticed it. It definitely came out from other sectors of YouTube that I was in your chat trying to communicate with you while you were talking the first one. But you weren't paying attention to your chat, which is understandable. And the one time you caught my words, it was me saying something about Jordan Peterson. And your response in the moment was exactly why I wouldn't bring you to my platform, which was, it was instinctively to be in defense of Jordan Peterson, who is, surely you would admit, a raging transphobe at this point. And so, like, if I'm in community with trans people, if I want trans people to feel safe with my content in the space that I have created on YouTube, I would not knowingly pull someone on the team, pull someone in the clip, pull someone on my platform and say, hey, this person's idea is I would have to say, so, Kidology, great stuff here, which I have done. I don't know if you've seen me mention you in my content. But then I would have to add the caveat. Also, Kidology doesn't have a lot of negative to say about Jordan Peterson's transphobia. I don't know if you consider that a fair, description of your perspective of Jordan Peterson. I'm not saying that you love him. I'm not saying that you are a strong believer. But in every time I've heard you mention him, you haven't mentioned that. And that is, from my perspective, problematic, And so when we're talking about, I'm here on your platform because you get to set the standards for, what comes on your platform. And you have a different perspective on what you want your platform to be. I'm not that interested in public discourse and debate. I'm trying to develop it. I'm trying to find ways to manifest it and utilize it going forward. But I want to be a video essayist. I want to make videos about Black movies. And when I fortuned upon this type of platform, then I said, well, I want my platform to be a place where everybody, or not everybody, where people who are used to not being seen and heard in a certain way can feel seen and heard in a specific way. And to just be blunt, I don't think some of the ideas that you harbor or that you haven't engaged in fit that. And so that's really the main reason, I'm not saying you're a transphobe, but
I mean, you have
I don't
called
need
me
a
a
person.
transphobe, so I don't
Well,
know
I take that back until further notice, and I apologize for how that may have upset you. But I will say that your channel is trans antagonistic. Your channel, much like we conflict about around Abba and Preach. Your channel is not as bad as Abba and Preach, right? But I imagine that some trans people, when I know because I talked and I heard from them, that some trans people saw that the left do better video and were like, ooh, there's some stuff in there that concerns me. And you cleared a lot of it up, right? But I'm sure you can imagine why an initial reaction from a person who's more sensitive to that issue would say, oh no, there was some stuff there,
Not really. I did find that quite difficult to navigate because in terms of, I hadn't actually really ever heard of dog whistling as sort of a term before your video. And so that was very interesting to hear about all the alleged transphobic dog whistles and anti-Black dog whistles and all of that. But I think with what you were saying beforehand about my apoliticism, for instance, in relation to your content and what you do and sort of us being entertainers and creators front and center. And also what you said in your last video. Yep.
One second, I'm sorry.
No. Take your time. It's fine. Wait, did I see some super chats?
You know what? I'm gonna.
Oh, I'm not. not very good at following chat. Sorry, chat. I'm so sorry. Thank you for all the super chats, by the way. I'm so sorry.
Sorry about that.
No, 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 no. No worries. No worries. No worries. I think one thing that I just, in some of what I was saying, some things that I found quite frustrating, I think, was this idea that you just mentioned, sort of about being, you know, an entertainer, being a creator, that sort of thing, and that you wouldn't then, alongside that, sort of platform somebody who is apolitical, even though surely what you're describing as what you're doing is apolitical. And even in your latest video, which is brilliant, and I'll link it below because I think everybody should watch it. Even though I don't agree with a lot of what you said in there, which is totally fine, and that's just reality, brilliant video. You even said that, you know, a lot of what we do is actually apolitical, that we don't actually do politics. So is there a reconciliation there? Because I sort of feel that it's fine for you to say these things, but for me to say these things, it's dog whistling. So I sort of feel that there's just a completely different scope of reality happening here, where we're saying the same thing, but because you have the badge of honor of being on the left and being in this particular sphere with people who agree with you, and the sort of I'd say cultural capital that you most definitely do have within your sphere of things, that when you say it, it's fine. When I say it, it's sort of this pseudo-psychological analysis of how I'm anti-black, transphobic, etc. Yeah.
So I'm sorry about this. Give me 1 second to fix whatever happened to my camera.
Worry. It's totally fine. No worries at all. These things happen. I'm terrible with tech anyway, so yeah.
Anybody who's watched me live knows that this is not some Machiavellian-like thing. I generally suck at the tech I am beholden to, so I apologize.
It's fine. I'm exactly the same. It's yeah.
So let's clarify some things you said. Me not platforming you was not due to you being apolitical. I explicitly said because I found some of your content trans antagonistic, and I want my space to be trans positive. This is not calling you a transphobe, but this is saying that I don't want to put viewers of mine that are trans or trans positive in a position where they have to grapple with and engage with, antagonistic ideas or individuals or ideologies to their existence. And again, it's like, imagine, I had a really good friend, right? And me and you were really good friends. And my really good friend, like, hates you and talks shit about you all the time. And then like in front of you, I talk about how great my friend is, and then say you two should meet. That's Jordan Peterson. You know what I'm saying? Like, we cannot engage. And I know you are not a huge Jordan Peterson fan, but like, your Jordan Peterson video is excellent. I used it helped jumpstart ideas for me that I use in my content in the future. Your analysis is great, and I gave credence to that. A lot of analysis, a lot of theory is great and made by interesting people and thinkers who are imperfect, and within certain contexts, I would not introduce them or their theories to certain people or put them in certain spaces. So, like, I want to be clear that it's not about you. The platforming is not about you being apolitical. In terms of like the existence, this being apolitical, I don't think we disagree, but I think we're talking about two different things at times. So doing politics, I have one video where I'm doing politics, and that is my Stop the Atlanta Cop City video. Mm-hmm. Of which, for most of its existence, I've kept the ads off I took it down because there was concerns for my safety here for a second. It is not my usual content. It's closer to B-sides content, but because it was a specific cause, I put it on my main channel to give it as much reach as I thought I could. That is doing politics with content, which I don't do because that doesn't pay my bills and feed my children. So being political, though, to me, and this is an interesting discussion I think we can have, is about where your ideology and your opinions lead to. You know, what ideas do they lend credence to? What do they support? And so, in that regard, I've heard you, and I've never engaged a lot with your take on being apolitical. But if your, content is, if I were to use your content as an artifact of analysis and have to extrapolate meaning from that content and put it on a gradient scale from left to right, it would obviously be center right, by, a general scale, which makes you relatively left leaning in the Western world. And so, like, that's a different thing than what I'm speaking to. When I had that moment where I say that the online left is apolitical, I'm alluding to the fact that they don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And you not doing and participating in politics is one thing I have heard you say. Does make you apolitical in that regard. But making videos and sharing political ideas is not a political act in the sense that you're actually participating in political action, but it presents a political ideology to the world, to 130-something thousand people. And so, to me, that's two different things. I think I think doing videos around political topics and then calling yourself apolitical is mostly just shielding from, reasonable critique around what political ideas were shared in your content. And so if we wanted to, we could just say, okay, Kidology is apolitical, but this video was right wing. So we're going to assess the right wing or centrist ideas within this video. And that obviously made it unsatisfactory, but I think that's the reality of the situation.
Okay, so you interpret my content as being sort of center right, based on your perspective. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. I mean, I think this is...
Just to be clear, I consider Joe Biden center right and Barack Obama center right, if that helps, clarify. Because I don't, center right means different things to different people in different spaces. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that doesn't it doesn't change anything for me exactly. I think it just I find that very hard to grapple with, especially when it comes to... I think that, at least with my views and opinions, I'm a human being like everybody. My views change and are different all the time, and I'm sure yours are as well. In terms of fitting neatly into any ideology, into any politics, it's impossible for me. And that isn't just because of my perspective, but largely because of sort of the boundaries and the individuals within a group. I mean, you, for instance, made it clear that in terms of me being invited to the clique, that's not happening. And so I found that that's been a situation and a circumstance in my life just because of my views, because of the color of my skin, what have you. And that's been groups of white people and groups of black people. So it is what it is. And I've accepted that. And a way that I've accepted that is by saying and identifying as apolitical and as a devout individualist. Not because I sort of have any vision of this being something that the rest of the world needs to subscribe to or should, or that this is the truth. It's my truth. But I think when it comes to any politics, any ideology, there is inherently and necessarily this idea that your ideology, whether it be left or right, say, is about the universal truth. It's about where we can get humanity toward this sort of end goal, this end utopia, this end vision of human existence and coexistence. And so that's a truth. It's meant to be sort of a truth that goes beyond you. And I don't, just based on my personal history and experiences, have not experienced or been immersed in any kind of truth or storytelling that goes beyond just me and sort of my personal survival and interaction in the world. So I think when that is, I feel, misconstrued as being centre right or right wing dog whistling or transphobic dog whistling or what have you, especially when like I don't have anything against trans people. For instance, I've said numerous times I think trans women are women, you know, all of that. I think that just identifies a problem and the center problem that I see with just all politics. But I think that when it comes to the left, and I said in my video, the reason why I made my video about sort of the left doing better and not the right is because I see the left as having a lot more potential insofar as recognizing people, insofar as being a home for people. And currently, I don't find the left a home for the vast majority of people in this world, let alone even the people whom right now it tends to claim to represent. And I think that that's where inevitably in the long run it's going to fail as a politics, because people cannot change their reality, their personal histories, how they see the world, because you say so. I mean, it's like, as a very simplistic example, when Bellamy said that if a trans person says that I'm Kidology, I'm transphobic, then I must accept that. That's ridiculous. And I think that that just goes so against not just human nature, but just the basic tenets of politics, which is empathy for the other and an understanding of the other without projecting yourself onto them and your vision onto them in order to come to some kind of resolution toward a political reality that will actually work. And I think that's why a lot of movements have inevitably failed in the past, because they can't see that. I mean, Marxism is a perfect example of that. And so I do think there is just a disalignment there and a problem there that I don't think is being resolved or is being addressed, but I think is just being sort of swept under the carpet, and sort of the issues are just sort of reduced to being the patriarchy or white supremacy, when it's just a lot more complex and a lot more dense than any of that. Yeah.
Well, that's a. I'm sorry. No.
No, go.
So a lot to engage there. So you're talking about, on one end, the general failure and incompetence of the left, which I think we all conceded a lot of things in that video. So yeah, this is trash right here. This is some trash shit that's going on. Hell, if you are at all engaged with the online left and left tube right now, it's a dumpster fire of monumentous proportions, and really a tautological proof of the conceit of my video right now. So like, there's that, which is true. What's also true is we have the right and necessity to be focused on self-preservation first and foremost, especially in the face of overwhelming hostility. And so for Bellamy to say, if a trans person calls you a transphobe, then you're a transphobe, that doesn't mean you have to change your perspective on whether or not you're a transphobe. That is our internal memo to keep in mind. That is our internal thing to consider, understand, define, mete out to each other. Um, and it's the reason why stuff like that is said is because for trans people, the debate, like there is a debate on their existence that is ongoing, that you call a micro issue. You know what I'm saying? Like that is
Yeah, I
that
think
is
we have a
why
very
there's a
different definition of micro issue. My micro issue is very much in line with what Kadisha Mbawa said in a video a few weeks ago, that trans people make up a minority of the global population. Just realistically, it's a micro issue. The majority of people aren't thinking about trans people and trans rights. That's just a reality. It wasn't me
it's,
putting any normative significance on that. I was just explaining very realistically why I think it is very alienating for the rest of the world to even be able to comprehend and understand transgenderism, just realistically.
you're explaining that the rest of the world doesn't understand trans people, and so if they're in community with us, then we better be pretty understanding of and gracious to their experience and what they're going through. Which means we need to be a little less gracious to y'all, because y'all are doing good without us. Y'all are doing good on your own, And while especially upon your explanation, right? While I wouldn't, I'm going to again rescind the label of transphobe. If I've said that, again, I apologize. I don't see you as that right now. But trans antagonistic is exactly what I would call what you did there. So like imagine if you were a white person, you call police brutality a micro issue because black American men represent 5% of America's population and a fraction of the percentage of the world population. It would not change how serious that is to me as an individual, and it would come off galling to see that offered with minimal with minimal reflection on how that would land. And that speaks to how you speak you're very correct in that the rest of the world finds trans existence alienating, which is why I'm not going to force trans people in my community to defend their existence if I'm going to say you're part of my community. You know what I'm saying? And therein lies, I think, this hopefully came across, again, I don't remember the video much at this point, but therein lies the fundamental criticism of your video. And I think the perspective that not just you, because this is not a kidology issue, this is on one hand a left, because like the left is a nebulous concept, right? But this is a left issue in terms of action and communication. But this is also a moderate to liberal issue in terms of like knowledge and understanding. What the video to me was what made me want to respond to the video was realizing that your perspective on the left was very typical, meaning like shared, like it mimicked conversations I've had with so many people over the years. And I'm new to them. I'm a baby leftist. I think I don't know if that's understood. Like I started journeying left after Obama, and I probably learned more in the last 2 years of content creation, relevancy, I should say, than in those first 4 or 5 years of reading Marx and trying to understand things better, having certain conversations. So I'm a baby leftist, right? And so as I'm having these conversations with moderates and liberals, I had people call me after the Cop City video and say, but the police, this is going to give us jobs, and the police, there's crime in that area, et cetera, et cetera. And like the reason why, although this, surely this failed on some level, and it definitely failed in the comments and in your chat, but the goal was not to vilify kidology explicitly, but to unpack how you came to think what your views of the left, that your views of the left were so accurate when they were highly inaccurate on so many levels. And so nobody likes to be wrong publicly or corrected. But like, the like the one that was like probably one of the more egregious is saying that the left was too focused on trans issues, not considering that, at least in the States, there's been like 200 anti-trans bills that have all been done by the right. Like that is Republican, the state, Republican government officials creating laws to destroy trans people. So any effort by the left to stop that is a reaction to aggression. You know what I'm saying? And for you to characterize that as a hyper focus, as a mistake, when we're just trying not to let people in community with us get destroyed. Now, there is a critique of identity politics that is not, that is underdeveloped on the online left right now. I will give you that. I got into that a little bit in the last video. And so, like, had that been the angle you took a bit more, I don't think it would have felt as egregious. But within that, it was like, no, this is just looking at things from the exact same perspective that many liberals and moderates look at things, thinking based on their perspective of that they see, the perspective that you see, that the status quo shows you, that they understand things. But like you said in your response, that you hadn't seen ContraPoints videos, Philosophy Tube videos, Jesse Gender videos. Like these are ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube are twice my size. They're juggernauts in the space, and they talked about transphobia, TERFs, all these things significantly. So maybe you haven't heard of those videos.
No, I have. I have watched their videos. Yeah, so I live on a very busy road.
So no, that's fine. But yeah. So you have seen those. So that, to me, that then makes it even more confusing how you could misunderstand. It goes from being a misunderstanding to a decision, from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's purely like just how human beings always look at things from their own lens and their own perspective, and we somehow have to come together in order to just coexist in that way, with our different opinions, different perspectives, different ideologies, what have you. And I feel that when it comes to it comes to the point now where you are a bad person if you don't see things from my perspective. And in terms of the response to me as a person, in which I don't blame creators for their followers or what their followers say. Like, it's not your responsibility, in my opinion. But in terms of what your comment section under that video had to say about me, it did, irrespective of whether it was not about a critique of Kidology. It became this entire tirade of people detailing everything that was fundamentally wrong with me because I don't see the world from their viewpoint, and how just all these speculations about my life, my brother, I mean, just bizarre things. And I think that's the problem with at least my perspective and sort of the personal being political, for instance, and with these sorts of critiques and the sort of lack of actually speaking directly to somebody and actually getting to know their opinions and their perspective on things. Because, like you said, for instance, you see me as a moderate or liberal, which is very different to... Yeah, well, I mean, I'm apolitical, so that doesn't in any way relate to how I see myself, which I do think is the primary
thing. I see your
thing.
content as such, I think is maybe a better way to put it. Your content engages with the ideology, so you are apolitical. I respect your...
Yes, and so that is I think the main issue. I think there is just a lot of lines being played which are not really clarified, because it did feel like, that video did feel like a very personal attack, even if it wasn't intended to be. I mean, I tried to be as understanding as I could, but just as time went on, and as sort of it became clear that, I mean, double the number of people watched your reaction to only like 10 minutes of my entire video, then watched my original video and had all these incredibly inventive opinions about it. That for me
I
just
regret
became inevitably bad faith. Even if it didn't start off from that point, I think the the consequences of it,
and this
which
is
I do believe
why
you were aware of.
I I knew that was a likelihood, and I regret putting it out. Just to be blunt, I don't regret the conversation. I don't regret having that ideation session with my community. But at the end of it, I was very close to tabling it, to vaulting it, and and this is the perversion of making things into content. I didn't do that because I said, you know what? One, I felt like it would come off dishonest, right? So I was like, well, maybe I'll just cut it up into clips. But then people were like, where's the whole thing? And then you wouldn't have the ability to respond to it in kind. Um, and so like it just became a fool's errand that is just the reality of what happens on this space. I'm deeply sorry about how the comments went. We try, I think, if you're watching it fairly, to stamp things down and set a tone. But like you said, you kind of can't control things, and
Yeah, I
people are
don't
gonna
blame you for that
feel
at all. At all, I
how
don't
they,
hold
yeah.
you responsible for that.
Um, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation in private. Because please believe, round two is coming when this is over. You know what I'm saying? And it's not going to be, and because of the size of my platform, but the size of your platform, and the way people respond. I mean, I may get it worse this time. I think I got it pretty bad before. I have a lot of people saying bad faith, ridiculous things about me based off of the video. It's kind of one of the reasons why I am, wanting to divorce from certain types of content on this platform, because this platform, people. I want to be clear. It's not just a platform. People, there are viewers. A portion of them, not all of them, are. They want this more than anything. You're right. I would had it not been a sizable enough amount of people in my own community wanting me to come here and feeling like I don't want to do this to a person I respect and that has been very good faith and, despite my issues and disagreements, a generally positive like figure to have gained a platform. I don't want to have that be how I treat you, how I regard you, through content. So I wanted to make sure that I did this. But I would have much rather talked to you in private. I would love to kill the stream and us go through this and find, understanding without the, the warping nature of the platform being the medium through which we understand each other. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing Twitter less seriously now. Why I never had Twitter before I became a content creator, and why like a year into Twitter, I'm like, whoa, I am doing this wrong. And now just finally saying I can't do it right, so I'm done. But yeah, and I want to be clear, I've never watched any of your content about your personal experiences. I've only heard about them secondhand through content. Because I, I find the way that blackness is treated in public to be generally harmful just to witness. And so, like, I don't like that I contributed to that. That's one of the reasons why I was in the comments like, you might not want to talk to certain figures who, they may be nice or not nice. Like,
Yeah, I do want to talk about that.
and I don't know if you saw like I'll say the other people within that community did response videos that were incredibly mean, incredibly bad faith.
Yes.
And it's like, that's the thing that I hate about this job, or at least the parts of this job that I am attached to, because it's not my job to make that type of content. But people who are less curious and less creative than you and I need their content to react to. And once that starts happening, it doesn't matter our understanding of each other. It doesn't matter the right or wrongs, the accuracy or inaccuracy of the facts. It just becomes how they interpret their content to their community, and then what their community does to us on the back end. And their narratives are born, you know. So I didn't want the narrative of Kidology as a transphobe to continue. But I also don't control that. You know what I'm saying? I don't control that. I don't control that narrative, both in like people can believe or not believe me, but also in the evidence within the content and the interpretation from people who are less bad faith that have bigger platforms. So I feel like I'm rambling. I want to just end with, I hate how this affected you and your channel. Even though I don't think your channel was you can tell me, obviously, I don't know your analytics, but I hate how this affected you. And I hate that despite the issues at hand, me feeling still the same way, I hate that I didn't just hit you up and say, hey, can we talk about this video? Because I have concerns. I wish I would have done that. I wish you were in community for that situation. But you know, my community is I have priorities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, understandably, and I don't blame you for that. I mean, it is what it is. It's happened. The past is the past, and we need to move on. But yeah, I mean, it did affect my channel. It has affected my channel. I mean, I've lost subscribers, lots of subscribers that I have. It's sort of like a recycling of subscribers in a weird sort of way. At one point, all my videos were just demonetized. I've lost 90% of my income. And sort of since your video came out reacting to my Kindly Do Better, like suddenly I was getting views on that video, then yours came, and then suddenly just no views. And, you know, my views have gone down considerably. So, you know, these things do have implications. I'm not blaming you for it. I don't want you to feel guilty about it, but the reality is that this is like a job, and these things I think do, and I think it has been frustrating for me in that there was just all this potential for us to actually clarify things, and that sort of now I'm known as a transphobe, and to this day, since then, I've been getting at least one video, one email a day calling me a transphobe or harmful to Black people or contributing to some genocide that's happening to some group. And I think that it's a very new thing, but it also sort of, it's been a bit conflicting, I think. I think especially because of what you said, just relating to a point that you said about me not talking to particular individuals, namely Destiny or Vaush, and this idea of sort of content farming, and sort of also I think there is this impression that you put forward, I think I wrote it down somewhere, that you believe that the things that I was talking about that were wrong with the left were sort of inherently a white leftist issue. And it's very difficult for me from my perspective, and I think this speaks to a lot of people when they're sort of told that sort of things are the problems of X, Y, and Z group of people, when their own experiences and own interaction with the world don't actually align with that. In that, you know, in the last few weeks, Destiny's been lovely to me, but you know, and Vaush, I think I could have a conversation with Vaush about sort of anything if I wanted to. And in terms of the people that have actually been treating me terribly and sort of very much misconstruing what I've said, calling me a transphobe, calling me anti-Black, an imperialist, apologist, what have you, have been the very people who are telling me that I need to be on their side. That just isn't
So,
logical to me. That just doesn't sit. I just think, even just as basic human
well,
instincts, well, with me.
so I got to stop you there. I can't. I don't know who's emailing you, and that sucks. I won't disavow. I will disavow any emails that you've gotten that are
Yeah, I'm not
my
blaming you for any of that. I don't
my
blame you for what
right.
the
But
community
I
on the
want to be
left
clear
does.
though.
That's
But I
not
want to be
your
clear
issue.
though. Multiple debate bros have done videos about you that were far less kind, where they were calling you a transphobe, where they
Yeah,
explicitly were
the
calling you a lot of
leftist
things.
debate
Yeah,
bros and
and
women,
I would
you
argue,
know, yeah.
so I don't know that. Uh, so you said something like people wanting you to be on their side. Um, like I would love for you to be on our side. You don't want that, right? Like you are an individualist, and you know we are a collective, and that's fine. And like I think that's a misconstruing of what's happening. What's happening is harassment, right? And it's an ugly thing, and I hate that that's happening to you. But that is that is a product of multiple things, not just the critique video that I released. It's first and foremost a product of your rhetoric
Of my
and
sorry?
like your rhetoric that you shared in your video, right? Like that
Well,
is where that is inciting
things were
people.
actually going pretty well until your video came out. Then suddenly it just died and went downhill.
So
That isn't coincidental, I'm
I
afraid. Things
so
changed
no.
rapidly.
So that
Suddenly people were talking about it in a
like
very different way.
your video was what 2 3 days old. It was
Sorry?
only a matter of time. Your video was how old when I reacted to it? 2 or 3 days old at most.
How many? Sorry?
Maybe the how many days?
Like
I'm
two,
making the
what did you
point
say?
as
Two, sorry, two, two.
I'm making the point that your video was only a few days old before I reacted to it, and people are gonna clip this and call me an asshole for saying this, but it's good that I got to it first. It's good that Vaush hates me so much and is such an egomaniac that he didn't actually watch your video because he like, and it's good that Destiny is actually very well aligned with you, and so like you should go talk to Destiny. That will probably help in some form or fashion. I take that back. Um, I say that to say, you know, you may not know what a dog whistle is, but you did it. Just like I may not, just like I don't know, people like uh, the reality of the content was the impetus for my critique. I am regretful because the one thing I had just starting to come into realization with, and like this experience solidified it, was how I've lost um, the uh, the plot on my own platform and like how my voice carries. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do that video thinking we gonna get Kidology, get her ass. Like we didn't do that. And but like it doesn't. I'm at a point now where it doesn't matter what I do. If I say something, there's an impact, and that's happened multiple times to me at this point, which is why I'm kind of pulling out of like, which is why I should have reached out to you, you know, personally initially, which is why this conversation should have happened privately as well, because the reality is that the video's problems were inherent to the video. The you know, I don't know how much anti-blackness we engage with or we attributed to you. That may have been something that came out the content, but that's also a critique of your content that has happened apart from me, because I haven't watched those videos, but I know that's what the critique is. And I think that critique is somewhat unfair because we're talking about your personal experience and your response to trauma and your own difficulties. But the demonetization, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? The 90% of your income sucks. I hope that you recover. But like, the reality is, there were multiple things in that video that we're going to get a response. And me being, there's another world where certain people find this video first, and it's a whole different situation, And I have, because I don't want to come off. I fear that I just can't be as empathetic as I wish to the situation you're in. I hate that it's affecting your career and your pockets, and I hate that people are responding to you with harassment and bad faith critiques. But I can't take responsibility for. I can only take responsibility for my part in critiquing you, but it was a critique of your content.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Of which you've also said that you haven't watched a lot of it, a lot of my personal content. So
I'm talking about the video in particular.
Okay. Yes. And yeah, I don't blame you for all that other stuff. I was just providing sort of context about how this whole situation had been affecting my channel, and just I think giving momentum to a lot of these streamers to say things which they otherwise would not have said, because now they've watched FD and believe that I'm a transphobe. So,
but those streamers hate me. Like they like so let's be clear, because I've watched several of these streams.
Yeah, I'm talking about like sort of like Demon Mama, those sorts of.
Demon Mama never mentioned me. She mentioned me very, very sparingly, And I know President Sunday, I think, did a video as well, and some other people may have. I don't know, but I know President Sunday and Demon Mama did very, they did what they do. They were much less considerate, and they didn't mention me at all. They barely mentioned me in their videos. The only person that mentioned me, ironically, I think, was Vaush, who didn't actually watch the video, and I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah. I mean, although I do think Vaush and I agree on quite a bit with regards to the left. I mean, in terms of his recent content about the manosphere, about the left and men, about also why the left is losing. I think we align quite effectively on that, just on our views on that, even though I think in terms of where he stands, it's a very different perspective of things. But yeah, it's been interesting. I don't blame you for anything of what has happened, aside from sort of what you said. But yeah. So yeah. Is there anything at this point that you want to ask me about? I don't know, anything really. I don't want to just dominate and asking you questions and bombarding you with my questions, and sort of all my woe is me.
Right. I mean, so maybe here's an opportunity to engage around the idea specifically and find common ground, having hopefully cleared some air around the conflict. How much leftist content do you actually watch in like actual? Because like the left is a nebulous concept, and there's a ton of content that comes with every day, and like one person's left is very different from another person's left, and people get platforms not based on their expertise, but just how appealing they are to an audience.
Yeah.
So like I would gladly give my sub, or I would love if St. Andrew had as many subs as I did, right? Because I love his political engagement around the issues, and wish that more people paying attention to it versus, a video about drama. But I say it to say, I'm curious as to like what your knowledge base is of the left, because the reason why we imply, the liberal centrist perspective is, at the beginning of the video, you talked about how much you loved a slightly right-leaning centrist newspaper, the Guardian. And then these,
Yeah.
I'll say trans-antagonistic, figures that you had so much appreciation for, that you read about so much, that are talking about, wanting to interview she shall not be named. And so like that betrays, so the idea, from my perspective, the idea that wouldn't, and so actually let's start with dog whistles. What do you understand about them at this point? Like, what is your perspective on what that means? Because I'm willing to be charitable and say you didn't understand how that came across initially. So I wanted to kind of.
Well, that came across to me as in I say something such as, it's unfortunate that a journalist had to leave a place that she's worked at for so many years because she wasn't able to interview J.K. Rowling as she'd wanted to, and that the environment in which she was working in was becoming hostile to the perspective of gender critical feminists, say, who just wanted to share news coverage with the very pro-trans perspective of The Guardian. And that is then interpreted as me being a dog whistle or catering to, or sort of, in a way, I guess, beckoning to actual transphobes who don't believe that trans women are women, or are fearful of sort of the conspiracy theories around sort of transness taking over the modern world or what have you. Sort of that's what I understood by it, that idea of sort of in the sort of the same way as people who tell me that, oh, by being apolitical you're just right wing, or if you're, as you said in your video, to be on the center now in the modern advanced economic world is to be right wing. That idea, that's what I understood by it, at least, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So it's, oh man, I'm not like, there's a deep, philosophical background around the concept of dog whistles, et cetera. I won't betray that by like trying to make this seem like it's the authoritative description. But essentially, so the best way to like illustrate the why that's a thing is if you look through your comment section, right? You saw overtly transphobic responses to that statement, right? So you didn't come out and say explicitly, trans women are not women, J.K. Rowling was right, whatever. You didn't come out and say that explicitly, but some in your audience who are transphobic heard that anyway. And so let's compare that to me, at least. So when you don't want to dog whistle, you signal that. So like, I hate that people were calling you Candace Owens or some shit in my comment section. So what do? We say, stop calling her Candace Owens. We're going to address the ideas and the issues, and we're going to focus on that. And, you'll be booted from the chat if you do that, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you don't do that, the thing I think a lot of, again, acknowledging you as apolitical, the thing I think a lot of more left-leaning people don't understand, the thing I think non-left-leaning people don't understand is how entrenched certain ideologies are into our daily fabric and the status quo, and how reflexive, certain belief systems, certain harmful, regressive belief systems are to people because they've been inundated with those things from jump. So it doesn't take much to signal to a transphobe that it's okay to be transphobic here. So when you say, she just wanted to write articles about J.K. Rowling and gender critical feminism, J.K. Rowling is transphobic, gender critical feminism is transphobic, right? And so like, if you don't point that out, then it becomes, even if that's not your goal, a dog whistle. One of the things, an example I wanted to share that I remember very vividly is the word thug. So, like, are you familiar with American sports
Yes.
at all? You know what Allen Iverson is?
No, not that familiar.
Allen Iverson he was a big time basketball player starting in like the mid to late 90s into like maybe the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. And he changed the aesthetics of basketball. He was smaller, number one, but he wore even baggier pants than Jordan, which was a thing. He had cornrows. He didn't have a clean cut fade. He didn't have a bald head. He had cornrows, which are an intrinsically black hairstyle, at least in America. I don't want to overreach the American black aesthetic, but intrinsically black American hairstyle. Spoke with his black sense, spoke Ebonics, did not code switch for the media, did not smile, did not play nice, didn't do anything wrong for most of his career. But immediately upon his entrance into stardom in the NBA, they started to call him a thug. Now, a thug is a criminal. A thug does criminal acts. And what was immediately meted out publicly in public discourse was that this was a racist dog whistle. That whether or not these commentators and media entities knew what they were doing, the impact of what they were doing was signaling racist ideation towards this person, towards this black man. And it was mostly nipped in the bud. And now that was something that would happen all the time. And it still will happen if it's racist enough space. But like it was addressed and like it became a point of conflict and confrontation. Well, what do you mean by thug? I was on one of my only debates, one of my 2 debates this year, or 3. I went on Adam and Sitch. And somebody in the audience somebody in the chat called me a thug. Why do you think they called me a thug? What crimes have I committed? What criminal aesthetic do I have except for being a black man with dreadlocks? You kind of see how that works? And so I don't know what you intended. I'm willing to be charitable and say you did not intend to transphobically dog whistle, but if you mention J.K. Rowling in the presence of trans positive people and don't signal that you acknowledge and disagree with her virulent transphobia, what are we to think? And and I want to be clear, you're not required to do that. We can't force you to do that. Mm-hmm. We are entitled to our perspective on what that means about you and your content.
Yes, but I do see an inherent contradiction in that even though, for instance, you said, don't call her Candace Owens, hundreds of people call me Candace Owens in the comments still. So it doesn't necessarily, that's why I say that you're not responsible for your audience. I'm not responsible for my audience. People are going to see what they want to see, and they're going to take what they want to take from what you say and from your content. But I think the important thing is to try as best we can, when we can, to try and see things from the perspective of the person who is actually saying the thing or doing the thing. So I do think that the idea of
So what is your perspective on J.K. Rowling's transphobia? And like, do you think she should be platformed in major newspaper publications?
Yes, I do, but I don't think, for instance, what has J.K. Rowling done? I'm just asking this just as a question because I actually don't know. I don't actually know what J.K. Rowling has said that is transphobic. She's never denied the existence of trans people. She's never said that trans people cannot have rights, cannot have autonomy, cannot exist. But she has a particular ideology which is very much invested in the experience of feminism in its very traditional sense. This idea that biological sex matters. And I can respect that. It's fine. I don't see that as being genocidal. I don't see that as being J.K. Rowling responsible for the very precarious existence of trans people in this world today. But I think that I need to hear, and which is why I'm very excited for J.K. Rowling being interviewed, an interview or podcast interview of everything that she has to say is going to come out next week. I can't actually say that J.K. Rowling is transphobic because I haven't actually heard her say, in her own words, without the influence of Twitter and the internet and everybody else's perspectives, what she actually believes. So I need to wait and see.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and expect. So I made content that engages very, very lightly with J.K. Rowling's transphobia. And I'll just say J.K. Rowling has been incredibly antagonistic to trans people on the basis of them being trans. She supported legislation to limit the rights of trans people. And she's been outright insulting to trans people in numerous ways. And I'm going to leave that as just an effort to provide a perspective as to why one might see J.K. Rowling as transphobic. But I'm going to challenge you. Like, have you watched ContraPoint's video about J.K. Rowling's transphobia? Have you watched, again, Philosophy 2's video about these things?
Not as of recently. When they came out, yes, but not recently, no.
So I would say if we can't call J.K. Rowling transphobic, who is transphobic? You know, and that's what
this is the problem. No, but this is the problem that I do have, because I think far too many people are being branded as transphobic for just their views on things, which in no way align to this idea of being fearful of trans people or not believing in the existence, the autonomy, the right to self-identification of trans people. I mean, transgender people have been with us throughout history. I don't deny that at all. It's very it's very divisive and very.
Should children be allowed to transition? Should children be allowed to transition, to medically transition?
To medically transition.
Do you understand what medically transition?
Yes. To medically transition.
You disagree with J.K. Rowling? Should adults be?
Wait, no. Sorry, I haven't answered that question yet. So, should children be able to medically transition? I think in the current climate and with current lack of knowledge, especially medical knowledge about consensual medical knowledge, I don't think so, no. I think that once you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. But I think as a child, not medically, no. But of course, I think there are extenuating circumstances. I don't think it's a universal thing. Medical professionals, I have to leave it up to them, because I, like you, to be perfectly honest, and everybody else with very emotive opinions about this, don't actually know everything, especially not about individual cases, which are very much between medical professionals, the individual themselves, and their families, and what is going on between them. I don't think this is a political thing. It's a very individual and personal thing. And I don't think that my opinion on it should implicate that or should come before that. Ideology should not precede the individual at all. And I think the individual, whether trans or otherwise, is paramount. So it isn't really for me to say at all. And that's really all I have to say about that, really. Yeah.
I am not interested in debating the nature of transphobia and the rights and needs of trans people for content. I'm just not So I don't want to move too far forward. I'll just say the thing I want you to understand is that the reason why people are going to now label you a transphobe is because you're speaking to opinions that are explicitly harmful to trans people.
I'm not, and I'm not a transphobe.
I understand that. I understand that. So, like when you say that we should listen to the doctors are very clear. The doctors have been clear, at least in the U.S. for a while. It's very good that you point out trans people have been with us since the beginning of history. Doctors have been pretty abreast of trans issues and trans needs for generation at least. It's only recently in which trans people have gained greater visibility that all of these things are coming into question. And the fact that there is even a debate, like me not, and I want to be clear, me not debating you on this and left not wanting to debate things isn't an issue of arguments and ideas. It's fucking respect. And it's like being the type of, like I would be, and I have been very annoyed to watch two white people debate racism, especially if one of those persons is in community with black people that they can platform to have that conversation. So I want to be clear, like the reason why I don't want to go further is a matter of not wanting to participate in the debate of the existence and humanity of people I call peers and friends.
Yeah, I'm not debating that at all. But I think that in this day and age, you have to acknowledge that more children than ever before are identifying as non-binary, are having existential crises surrounding gender. Gender is all the rage, okay? The number of people who are detransitioning because of this is just evidence of the fact. And that isn't dog whistling. That's just reality. And we need to talk about these things. We're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere politically and insofar as people understanding trans people, actual trans people, if it's just, I'm not going to talk about this because I'll be called a transphobe by my community and cancelled, etc.
It's not, no. It's not about worrying about, it's not about worrying about accountability to my community. It's being accountable to my community. So I will put you in contact with some trans people that can have this conversation with you. I would advise privately, but if you desire publicly, or you could just do the research on the other side of this issue a little better than you have up until this point, and that might also help.
Okay, well, just because I reach a different conclusion to you, it doesn't mean I haven't done my research.
Okay.
I just have different opinions. It's not that I haven't done my research. I just don't see the world from your perspective, and that's fine. That doesn't make me a transphobe. It makes me a human being like everybody else.
It also has consequences, and it has, not consequences like I am some authority, like I didn't call YouTube and have them attack your channel. Right, but consequences in that the public perception and the opinions about the ideas you are sharing willfully publicly is going to, especially, like this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you privately, so that we can have a conversation without the inevitable backlash that will come, based on some of the ideas that you share. And yes, I'll put you in contact with some trans folks that I'm in community with, and see if they want to have this conversation with you. It's not a matter of being afraid of being canceled. It's a matter of, I don't know what it feels like to be trans. This is not my area of expertise, and I am just not feeling the idea of me being the person that explains it to you, because I may miss a lot. If we could, I want to talk about maybe there was one thing that I thought was that I like talking about a lot, that you touched on, or sorry, I was waiting for the noise to go. In terms of like what the left is, because I didn't read your addendum, so I'm interested to see what you know, if you could share that, because I think that's maybe the most valuable thing to get into.
Okay, so what's your question? Sorry.
What do you think the left is? And I'm not saying this as like a test because I don't have a good answer either, but it'd be interesting to discuss.
Yes, I mean, I didn't have a clear definition. I had particular sort of very generic things that the left typically stands for, insofar as very much looking at the left as including, I would include liberals, even though I think not neoliberals, but sort of the more liberal leaning left as well. Primarily the idea of the state having a primary role in advancing the prospects of people, the lives of people, the idea of progress, particularly progress of ideas, and a disdain for privatization, sort of the private interests of the state, minimal state, etc. Very generic things that sort of just underlie, not necessarily just being sort of extreme left, like socialist, communist, but also the center left, which tends to align with a lot of those ideas.
So I think there's a lot of agreement there. Excuse me. Sorry. So like, I tend to not look at center left as being left leaning, at least in the Western world, because what is it? The Overton window kind of shows that we've moved so far right, at least in the U.S. In the UK, there's different things, but we've moved so far right in so many ways that there's been actual analyses of like Barack Obama's presidency to show that he was basically Ronald Reagan, like his policy activity lined up much more with Ronald Reagan than like, I don't know, Jimmy Carter. You know what I'm saying? And so that was one of the things that like I took issue with, because you kind of mentioned that the left abandoned the working white class, and it's more like they just couldn't get it to work, and they were being killed in counterintelligence programs were rallying against them, but also like a lot of other issues. And so like the thing that is important to mention is that like Bill Clinton, the last great Democratic president in the U.S. before Obama, took the Democratic Party very.
Oh, hello. I'm not sure what has happened. Oh, is he back? Yes. Hello?
Am I back?
Hello? Are you all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That is a signature move of me when I'm live. Is that the battery runs out on my camera because
Oh, I
I
see.
don't have. I have a the first expensive camera I got does not have uh, uh, a
Oh, like a
battery
dummy battery.
extension.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not on the market for this expensive ass camera. Um, so
Oh,
it isn't.
they don't
I'll
have
be
one
replacing
for
that.
your camera.
Not for this. Nobody get the Nikon Z50,
Oh,
whatever it is. It's a stupid camera for stupid people.
oh
Of which
dear.
I'm.
Please go
Uh,
and watch FD's latest video in order to contribute to a fund for a camera that can get a dummy battery. Yeah,
yes,
that's
it's on the way. Hopefully, hopefully. Um, so yeah, so the point I'm trying to get at is the popular idea of what the left is should start like Bernie Sanders, right? Like at a
okay.
minimum, Bernie Sanders gets so much flack and heat within the real left, which is I don't abide by taking that term too seriously, but then that's something people don't understand is I keep on getting called a liberal and a Democrat by people who don't know any better. They don't understand that what Bernie's asking for is a decent distance than like the political beliefs I'm developing personally and the political beliefs of most I'm in community with, you know. Uh,
Yeah, it's
and
quite
so
socially democratic, but still very much in line with an appreciation of capitalist society. I would say quite
neoliberalism,
different from you, most definitely.
yeah, and that's kind of a thing that that people just don't get. They don't get that people don't understand capitalism. Like I said earlier, people don't understand how deeply entrenched and normalized certain ideologies are.
Mm.
Um, and so thus they don't understand and struggle to critique capitalism effectively. They don't understand that what is presented in the media as the left is still right. Um, and they don't understand. And so we are speaking hieroglyphics to them. We're speaking a whole different language to them, which is why, I get flack for it. And he definitely didn't do me any favors by kind of starting off a powder keg of drama this week. But like, I really like Hassan because Hassan breaks down these big leftist ideals to a wide, normal audience.
Hmm.
And so it makes, and that's kind of what I think I need to be doing more. Um, that's like a goal I'm trying to undertake. It's like, okay, how do I shorten my videos a little bit, which I'm not doing a good job of, and do stuff that engages better with a popular audience and still hit certain nuggets.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Right. Yeah. You see, I do agree with you. I think I do see sort of very much this capitalist realism as being a real thing. This idea that sort of it's quite unimaginable to see another world beyond capitalism, or any alternative to capitalism. And I would say that I'm not a capitalist realist insofar as thinking that capitalism is something that we can't do without. But I do think that the majority of the world is in that framework, or at least moving toward trying to become richer and seeing capitalism as the viable way. And in terms of saying, well, actually, no, that's not going to go anywhere. And ultimately, I think that the rest of the world is just becoming a lot more capitalistic, and that we need to engage with that and try to understand why that is happening. I don't think
yeah.
sort of seeing, sorry.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish your thought.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't necessarily see socialism or perhaps the extreme left as being a viable alternative or a viable alternative that is attractive to the rest of the world, especially beyond America.
Yeah, so I mean, I disagree because I think the state of the world right now is evidentiary of the failures of capitalism. And that was another thing you mentioned about, like, I think you mentioned it, or at least it's a point that I engaged with around your video, like at the same time, possibly. But like here in the States, I can only speak effectively for the States. Excuse me. Like millennials and Gen Z are not getting more conservative as they get older. That's a traditional, that is like a data point that has been tracked for a couple of generations in America, that people, when they're younger, they have all these, left-leaning idealistic things. And then as they get older and they get to participate effectively in capitalism, they leave those ideals behind for the sake of security and prosperity. Capitalism no longer provides security or prosperity for most people. I feel like I've heard you say, like, you don't know if you're ever going to be able to save up to get a house, and that's a lot of people. Like, I'm probably of the last section of millennials that comfortably bought a house, because, and I only got my house because there was a recession and Obama was giving out, loan stipends or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, you have now at least two generations that are looking at a completely different economic world than their parents. Or they might have the same parents, because like it's Gen Z and millennials. My parents were boomers, but like a younger millennial's parents might be Xers or boomers, and Z's parents are Xers. But I still have to say, and that's just in America, like from an economics perspective. We talk about the environment, we talk about social unrest. Capitalism is imploding; it is not working, which is why it's important to master introducing leftist perspectives to the people, because this is the first time in a generation that we have the youth's and the people's attention. People have not, the left was destroyed between the 60s and the 80s. In the West, and especially in America. I can't again speak to what's happening in the UK. And so that you described that as the abandonment of the white working class, but it was really just a dismantlement of the whole project as a whole, on multiple levels and fronts. And so Bernie Sanders is probably the first impetus of the left re-entering into popular public discourse and not being seen as this caricature of like hippies saying, hey man, and smoking weed. Like, no, people are understanding that there were leftist movements through, the 20th and 21st century, but 20th century? Through the 20th century and the mid 20th century that were very scary to the status quo and very serious until essentially the Cold War. And so, like, yeah, capitalism doesn't have the answers anymore. It has the answers to like people who have access to capital and access to material goods and resources to utilize it effectively. So I was able to buy a house. My little sister, who's 28, made her own house. You know what I'm saying? Whole different perspective. Some of my cousins in Chicago, they're not feeling capitalism the same way I'm feeling capitalism. So that's who I need to be talking to about socialism, or anarchism, or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I think that this does speak to sort of an issue that I do have with the perspective of sort of the generic left. I think capitalism is a good example of this, because it seems that blame for problems is placed on this sort of institutional monolith, on this ideology, without a real appreciation that it's sort of the people within that ideology who are responsible for its success or lack thereof. And I think that's the case with socialism and the history of why socialism, especially in Europe, especially Eastern Europe during the Cold War, why that failed. It wasn't because of the ideas necessarily, it's because of how they were executed by people with vested interests, by human beings. And I think it's the exact same thing with neoliberalism within capitalism. I think it is purely a fact of people and what people do, and people who then accumulate power and execute it in a way that benefits them. I don't think that this has to do as much, at least globally, with race in the way that is sort of at least presented a lot on the left as it's sort of being a white supremacist issue. I think South Africa is a brilliant example of this, of how it doesn't matter if you have a white elite in charge or a black elite in charge. People are going to be people, and I think all ideologies have this problem, which is why one reason why I'm very individualistic, because I think that it is an opportunity to actually figure out why people act the way they do within ideologies or ideological frameworks, and why capitalism doesn't work. I don't think it's just because X, Y, and Z mechanisms and formulas of capitalism or of socialism. It's because people use it to their own ends in particular ways within their particular histories and circumstances. And I feel that there is an inherent failing with not just the left, the right as well, but specifically just as we're talking about the left, I think there is that failing in recognizing the humanity, which is really paramount to all of this, to capitalism, its success or otherwise, to socialism, anarchism, its success or otherwise. I don't think the world isn't going to be a better world if we become a socialist world. Because you're still going to have the exact same people functioning within socialist systems. And I think there is just a gap there, if that makes sense.
Well, Andrewism would say we would have a better world in an anarchist world. Every day I wonder how much more I'm starting to agree with him when as I learn more. But that is not to reject some of the things you're speaking to here, specifically that people are the core ingredient to any political system. Now, I would argue that capitalism, this design at its core, even in the many permutations of it, tends to incentivize people to act in selfish ways and ways that disregard others. But it's, obvious that, many a socialist regime has started off with a bang and failed under, poor leadership, bad decision making, incompetence, etc. Now, the thing you are leaving out that I want to be like, we have to enter into the discourse is how this is not, that is encouraged by outside forces. In the 1960s, and the CIA was engaging in, international assassinations of democratically elected officials who were more, left inclined. Right? So, we can't act like that is not a part of the project. That's including internally. They were assassinating leftist people within America. But I think the takeaway, the thing to consider is opening yourself up to more leftist leanings and ideologies, and also getting offline with it, because that's where the real activity, is actually is. It's not, we're not planning any, major revolutions anytime soon, right? Like I want to be clear, but like there are many leftist, collective. Uh, 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 I'm losing the words because I'm getting tired. So we're about to get to it. So I'm sure you're tired too, because it's later by you than it is for me. Um, there's many actions being undertaken by the actual left, not the online left. Now, a bunch of folks on Twitter and YouTube that are engaging in resistance and also support of people, and they are invisible, and they don't have platforms, and they wouldn't want them because they understand that that is actually not useful to their actual function.
Yeah.
But what is useful is for people to get a better perspective, and so to be charitable to an element of your perspective. There's a need for people with this information to make it more to disseminate it to the people, to the masses, in whatever way is most useful and effective. This is something that we discussed in our video, that we don't need to sit down and read Marx. I haven't read Hegel. You know what I'm saying? I haven't read Deleuze. I think I'll be okay. I probably said Deleuze's name wrong. I don't know.
You'll be fine.
And I don't think that has had a negative effect on any activism I participated in over the course of my lifetime, or the people I've helped in the process. And I don't think people care that much. That's one of the things when I start talking about the white left. The white left operates on this dominance framework where I've read all the things and you have not, or I have the best big brain take, or the biggest audience, or the sharpest tongue, and you do not. Thus, your ideas poo-poo, and etc. And like, it's a great entertainment venue, and there's opportunities for fundraisers and stuff like that. But that's not the action. That's not the praxis. Drama isn't praxis.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. So, yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Right. Do you have any questions for me? I don't want to hold you up if you are done with me. You can.
I'm starting to fade.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you see my back hurts. I'm old. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. I don't
How do
want
you feel
to.
about the video?
Sorry.
How'd you feel about the drama video?
Your drama video. It was a brilliant video. I thought it was a fantastic video. There are parts of it that are obviously, I'm sure you've heard the critiques, especially about the clips that you used, especially ones with regards to Vaush from edited rather maliciously by a online Nazi. I think your critiques of Destiny were a bit more about, I think about a lot of content creators. It did seem to be a bit more about public shaming than about accountability, and I do think that when it comes to, I do understand from your perspective. If I just take myself out of my boots, I can see why, from your perspective, there's very much this perception that there is sort of this antagonism between white content creators and black content creators, especially with regards to drama, and this idea of white creators sort of farming content from black creators, and this idea of the algorithm being racially biased. And I can see that from your perspective, from where you stand, from the content that you make, the people that you are in community with, that you engage with. I, from my point of view, I don't see that. I don't see, for instance, Vaush as being racist. I don't think that. I think the engagement with Professor Flowers, for instance, was one of two individuals having a very different conversation about sociological matters, especially about a country in which both of them didn't have as much information as I think needed to be had about the situation in South Africa. I don't at all think that Professor Flowers is a white genocider. So yes, there were things that I disagreed with, but I think that they were things that I would not say take away from the entirety of the video. I think inevitably people are going to disagree with certain things, but can I see that you've put in your heart and soul, blood and sweat and tears into that video? Yes. And that is commendable in and of itself. And I think it is a fantastic video. I think it raises important questions. Did I find it ironic at times? Yes. But that's purely from my own prejudice, my own bias. And that's not what's important. What's important is the video in and of itself. And I think it was a fantastic job. So congratulations. Well done. Everybody must watch it. I don't really know what else to say. But yes.
Well, I wasn't expecting to get that much. I'm trying to get used to direct praise. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because I feel awkward.
Right.
I did work hard on it.
And you can see that. I think it's evident that you really put it's an understatement to say sort of like blood, sweat and tears into it, but you really put your everything into it. And I think in and of itself, just that.
I do want to say that it's important. Two things I think are missed. One is that like everything isn't drama and accountability shaming. It's also just like valid critiques. Like I had a video ready to go talking about why Hassan's take on the Hoppers game wasn't the right one, but considering the state of affairs of online left, I was like, let me just hold this. But also, like, it's not even just black versus white leftists or white content creators. It's the nature of content creation in the left, the real left, and how we have the megaphone of the voice of the left, and we really shouldn't in a way, because we are compromised by the nature of being content creators and entertainers. And so like anybody that really wants to be with the left needs to turn off my videos and off anybody's videos and hit their community with that energy in between the next release. What I would like to do though is we can wrap up, but we can talk about what's actually going on with your channel, because that sounds wild. But yeah, we'll save that. But yeah, we can wrap. Unless you have any questions.
Yes. I don't want to hold you up. I can see that you're tired. I'm sure like you've got kids, a family, a life. So yes, I really do appreciate you giving me this time. I know you're a very busy individual, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I do thank you for speaking with me, because I know that it's not easy, and I'm very grateful, and it means a lot, because not many people do want to talk to me from your side of things. So I thank you very much. And also just thank you for what you're doing on YouTube. you're doing a fantastic job. Keep going. Please look after yourself and your health. Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to you again at some point. Just hit me up whenever if you want to. I'll just leave it in your court. But yes, thank you so much. And it's been an honor talking with you, really. So yes, and I'll leave your links in not that you need a shout out because you are, as I said, sort of a legend, but yeah, I'll just leave, especially to your last video, which I thought was very, very interesting, and just I could just see the effort that went into it. It was really stellar stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kidology. I hope that there's learning opportunities that come from this for everybody. I haven't been looking at the chat.
Yeah, not that.
But I imagine it's not it hasn't been a friendly chat.
I have faith. I have faith in. I have faith. So.
Yeah. But I hope there's learning opportunities for everybody involved. I know at least I hope that you're able to engage in some conversation with some knowledgeable trans people on the on why some of the things you said today are going to be sadly the main thing people talk about in some spaces, and I hope that you have a chance to recover all the craziness going on with your channel. That's wild, and I hope that I hope that people are kind, kinder than maybe I was when I made the video. And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. So, yes, go well. Thank you very much indeed. This was very interesting. Lots of food for thought. So, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Peace and blessings, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Okay. Is that which scene do I have? There we go. Okay, there we go. Hello. Oh, hello. Not so erudite. Hello. Lovely to see you. Oh, gosh. It's Oh, okay. Yes, Prince Petty. Oh gosh, Blair White. Yeah, I've been watching Blair White for years. I mean, that's not to say that I agree with everything that Blair White says, but yes, I think yeah, I do enjoy Blair White's content. That Blair White video where she interviews HRH Collective, I sort of felt as if I was in like sitting at the Mean Girls table, and I didn't know whether to be honored or or totally disgraced. But yes, so yes, but oh yes, this was interesting. I didn't get to say everything that I wanted to say, regrettably, but it's okay. It was fine. I didn't want this to be too contentious. I didn't want this to be too much of a video of me getting closure from all of this. But yes, I don't think I was too mean. I wasn't too mean, was I? I don't think so. There were points where I was getting a little bit heated, but I think I was able to think about butterflies and roses and spearmint toothpaste. But yes. Oh, thank you so much, Katie. Thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's ironic. It's so weird. I'm so critical of the internet, but in terms of my birthday in real life, very uneventful, very boring, very lonely, very much just me wandering around Cambridge, just sort of worrying about being a year older, I guess. I don't know. But then online, everyone has been so lovely. Wick TV and Not So Erudite and so many others sang happy birthday to me, and everybody's been so lovely. So, I do have a weird sort of faith in the internet. I really do. So yes, it was, yes, it was, yes. So that was an experience. I'm sure a lot of things here are going to be taken out of context. It's okay. I think I'm ready for that. I think I've weathered the storm of most things, and I think it's been good being able to speak to somebody about this as opposed to it simply being a reaction to sort of things taken out of context and clips that I've had. So, yes, yeah, whew, okay. So, thank you everybody also for your super chats. I'm so sorry that I have not seen all of them. I could see little flashes of color in the corner of them coming up, and I just thank you so much. I really appreciate that so much. It's so kind of you. Thank you so much. I yeah, you're too kind. Thank you, especially after I said that I'm not going to be looking at the chat. Most kind. Thank you so much, Taylor. Thank you. Sorry, Tyler. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Tyler. You're a wonderful person, and I wish you the best. Thank you. Thank you very much. Likewise. Yes. Thank you. You're very, very kind. Oh, yes. So, yes. 1 year closer to MILFdom. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Fingers crossed. So yes. Oh, thank you very. Oh, you're all very very kind. A bit flustered after all of this, but thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. I'm officially 26 now. I need to remember that. So yes. Unfortunately, I haven't grown much taller. Still very very short. Still a 5-footer. But you know what? All is well. All is well. So yes. Yes. So anyway, did I watch Velma? No, I haven't watched Velma. Unfortunately, we don't have Is it on HBO in the US? I'm not sure. At least it isn't. I haven't seen it anywhere in the UK where I can watch, because I only have. What do I have? I have Mubi, sorry, which doesn't have Velma. I have. I don't have Netflix anymore. Goodness, Netflix is getting very, very, very tricky with its subscription plans. But yes, I've got Amazon Prime. Velma isn't on Amazon Prime, unfortunately. So yes, I haven't watched Velma. But yes, I probably will at some point. Maybe when all the hype has died down. It took me until 2 years ago to watch The Office. So all in good time. Yes. So yes, I am going to say good night now, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And I do think that my housemates are probably going to get a bit annoyed with me talking for much longer. So I need to, I think I need to, yes, I need to probably go to bed at least, probably get something to eat as well. I've been a bit nervous for this, so eating was not a thing, but yes, I think it's probably time. But yes, it was fantastic talking to you. I might live stream I guess it's today now in terms of time, on Sunday night. I don't have anything planned, regrettably. I do have a video that I'm just going to be editing tomorrow or today now. But yes, I haven't got anything planned. I'd be happy to just stream and just talk to you, answer questions, just interact, I suppose. But yes, if you'd like to, I'll just leave a comment below this video just asking if you'd like to, and if you would just let me know, I suppose. But yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, especially to, we have a lot more people than usual. So I just thank you all for just being here and listening to me and engaging with the content. I really appreciate it. And yes, so, you know, I think everything's going to be fine. It will, this will pass, onward and upward. I think, you know, I've just got to keep making content and just, you know, focus on you guys, because you honestly make my day, and you make it all worthwhile, and you're just incredible, and it's just phenomenal having all of you. So each and every one of you, thank you so much. I really appreciate it more than you can imagine. It's really just overwhelming. So thank you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Yes, Rocky Jonzo, I will keep it classy. I will. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Noah Brown, as always. Thank you, Rini. Thank you, Anne. Who else is here that I know? Alison, Alexander, Manny E, Anne, Katie, just everybody. Oh, I haven't seen you before here. Quadro, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I will, yes, everybody, thank you. And yes, I will see you either later on tonight, or depending on where you are, or I will see you in a video that I will have out on either Monday or Tuesday, depending on how quick I am with my editing. So yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the time of day. Take good care. And yes, I will see you all very soon. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Bye. Goodbye.